The thing that we need to realize is that the devil, when God's people begin to march, the devil marches too. And he always tries to join. Don't try to hold on to people. Let them go. Now you'd expect, they'd say, we give up. You've convinced us. You'll find out religious enemies don't do that. Demonically driven religious enemies, and this is what they were, said, we've heard him speak blasphemous words against Moses, against God. Now that was a lie. The only blasphemous words they'd heard from their standpoint was the fact that he dumped over their theological tables. He upset their religious apple cart. And he answered them in front of the crowd, and they had no answers, and so the best thing to do was to discredit him. Guess what? That tribe hasn't died out. Stephen is marching against the enemy. He marched right into their den. If you want to find out where the enemy's really got his fortress, you don't have to go to the adult bookstore. Go into the church, any church, and there you'll find his big place. Whenever God builds a house of prayer, the devil always builds a temple there. And 'twill be found upon examination, the latter has the largest congregation. Anytime God sets up a movement of God's people, when the devil can't stop it by direct opposition, he joins it. That's right. You'll find that all through the Bible, Old and New Testament. When the work of God cannot be stopped any other way, the devil immediately has people join it that he's controlling, that he's pulling the strings to. And the idea, you see, is to get enough of his folks in there to outweigh the folks that are moving with the Lord. The reason the devil hates the deliverance church is because it's hard for him to get his folks in. Let me tell you, after 10 short years of experience with this deliverance thing, I can tell you this much. From a standpoint of a pastor in a church, people are sent to you. We won't discuss which one sent them. They come from the Lord or from the other side. The way we get members, I tell them the door opens both ways. I didn't ask you to come if God didn't tell you goodbye. You say, well, you'll never build a big church. Won't that be great? Then we'll all know each other. We'll know who's who. Some of these people have been killed by success. Did you know that? One of the worst things that can happen to a group of believers that are really going is to suddenly mushroom. Then they have more to do than they can handle. They can't watch everything, can't keep it going. Whereas before, when they're a tight, compact group, praying together, staying together, bracing each other, all of a sudden now you're running in all directions, and what are you going to do? You say, well, you don't sound like you want to build a big church. I think 5 medium-sized churches is better than 1 super church. I do. I think God can handle them better. I mean, if you have 1 super church and it goes sour, it just wrecks the whole thing. If you have 5 and 2 go sour, you still got 3. Isn't that better? And I believe there's something to that. You say, well, you just don't have a vision. No, the thing that we need to realize is that the devil, when God's people begin to march, the devil marches too. And he always tries to join. Don't try to hold on to people. Let them go. I've known more churches that when the rattlesnakes, God moved through the place and the rattlesnakes started running out the doors and the people run and grab them. Oh, please come back. Oh, please come cast in your lot with us. Poor things, bring those rattlesnakes right back into the house. They'd left, try to let them go. You say, well, you don't love the people. I sure do. I'll tell you one thing. When I got born again, from that day on, nobody ever had to ask me to come to church. I went around the world in the Army, and nobody ever had to ask me to go to church, but I was in church every time there was church. And I heard some of the sorriest sermons you can imagine. I really did. I've asked the Lord, please don't let me ever preach as sorry as some of those chaplains I heard. They didn't know nothing. They didn't care nothing. I sat there a lot of times and read my Bible. It was more interesting. I'd suggest you get bored with the sermon, read your Bible. You're blessed when they leave. You say, but they took people with them. Oh, good. That skimmed off. That skimmed off other trouble that you'd have had later on. Whatever happened to God adding to the church those whom He wanted? Did you know that He sends people in and He gives them time and opportunity? They either settle in or burn out. Here they burn in or burn out. That's right. Let God sort them out. Let God sort His young'uns. Pray for one another. Love one another, certainly. But don't hang on to people. You may be hanging on to problems. Let God do it.